In 2017, Kentucky Fried Chicken literally launched a chicken sandwich into the stratosphere. It was a peak moment for a brand that has transformed its founder into a bizarre pop culture punchline, starring in DC comic books, appearing in romantic dating simulators, and performing endless marketing stunts. Today, that bespectacled face with the white goatee is everywhere. Walk down almost any main street on the planet and you will see him, a universal symbol of smiling, folksy Southern hospitality. Because of this saturated, cartoony branding, a lot of people assume the Colonel isn't real. They figure he's a fictional corporate mascot created by an ad agency, right alongside Ronald McDonald or Betty Crocker. But the real Harlan Sanders spent the final years of his life publicly warring with the very corporation that wears his face. He was a man who grew up in the rough-and-tumble world of the early 20th century, where he frequently relied on his bare fists and even a smoking gun to fiercely protect his own business interests. The sanitized corporate version of the Colonel bears little resemblance to the man who actually built the company. His true story begins in the gritty, uncompromising environment of the 1930s. Sanders spent the first half of his life bouncing between jobs, from farmhand and streetcar conductor to insurance salesman and railroad fireman. He was a ferryman and a streetcar conductor long before he considered becoming a professional chef. He even attempted a career in law, studying by correspondence and practicing in Arkansas. That path ended abruptly when a courtroom brawl with his own client derailed his legal aspirations. By 1930, he was operating a service station in a rough neighborhood known as Hell's Half Acre in Corbin, Kentucky. He started serving meals to truck drivers at a wheel-in table, cooking ham and steak, to delivering the neighborhood's babies because their families couldn't afford a doctor. He was intensely defensive of his business. When a rival gas station owner repeatedly painted over Sanders' advertising signs, it sparked a deadly shootout. A Shell oil manager was killed, and Sanders returned fire, wounding his rival in the shoulder. These violent encounters and failures created a hardened, resilient survivor. He was a man defined by a fierce temper and a refusal to back down, a far cry from the chuckling grandfather portrayed in modern commercials. At age 65, while most people were preparing to retire, Sanders was living on a meager $105 a month Social Security check. He decided to leverage his only real asset, a pressure-fried recipe he had perfected years earlier. Sanders had pioneered a way to use industrial pressure cookers to fry chicken in a fraction of the usual time. It was a specific use of new technology that allowed him to produce consistent quality at high speeds. Mastering this method allowed him to scale his secret recipe of 11 herbs and spices. He spent years driving across the country, sleeping in his car, cooking batches of chicken for restaurant owners to convince them to become franchisees. His iconic white suit served a purely practical purpose. It helped to hide the white flour stains that inevitably covered him while he worked. He eventually bleached his mustache and goatee to match his hair, creating a persona that was as much about utility as it was about marketing. His relentless self-promotion and salty language finally paid off. By the mid-1960s, the Colonel Sanders regional specialty had blossomed into a massive fast food empire. In 1964, Sanders sold his interest in the company to a group of investors for $2 million. He remained the public face of the brand, but he quickly realized he had lost control of the quality he spent his life perfecting. The new corporate owners ruthlessly cut corners on ingredients and preparation to facilitate an unprecedented expansion. They prioritized speed and profit margins over the slow, precise methods the Colonel insisted upon. Sanders did not go quietly. He tore the franchises, openly insulting the food, calling the gravy sludge and wallpaper paste. He called the breading a fried dough ball stuck on some chicken. The fallout led to open legal warfare. Sanders opened a new restaurant, the Claudia Sanders Dinner House, as a direct competitor, and countersued the corporation for $122 million, claiming they were using his image for products he didn't develop. The situation became so absurd that KFC franchisees sued their own founder for libel and defamation over his comments about the gravy. It was a lawsuit the Colonel ultimately won, but it cemented his reputation as a corporate antagonist. His later years weren't a peaceful retirement, they were a bitter, public war. The creator was fighting the machine he built, trying to reclaim a legacy that was being sold off piece by piece. Sanders died in 1980 at the age of 90. His passing marked the moment the purist founder could no longer offer a public defense of his methods. Decades later, the corporation has gained total control over his identity. They use philanthropic efforts like Add Hope to soften his image, transforming a man who was once a litigious rebel into a purely benevolent, folksy grandfather. The massive Whedon plus Kennedy advertising campaigns resurrected him to fix declining sales, rotating through various celebrity actors to play him as an obedient, wacky salesman. These modern campaigns use the Colonel's face to aggressively push the exact same mass-produced food he once spent his life publicly trashing as wallpaper paste and sludge. Harland Sanders achieved corporate immortality, but his true identity was the price. The creator has become the ultimate compliant employee, and a man who spent his life fighting for his own name is now a mascot for the very things he despised.